Hi and welcome back. My name is Roxanne Pacheco. I'm a clinical therapist certified in trauma and preventive medicine. And today we have a continuation to last week's video. So we are talking about placing the child as a priority during visitation. We mentioned July is a month where a child will go to the non-custodial parent's home and spend that entire month. I gave some recommendations and I mentioned that I would be coming back and revisiting a particular topic. So today I want to first and foremost start with saying that, believe me, I get it. Co-parenting is not an easy task. It is not easy for the parents to separate themselves from what used to be a husband and a wife, or whatever the dynamics of your home are, to now focusing on two individuals who have a primary task of ensuring that a child or children will grow up to be healthy individuals and be able to form healthy patterns for their future and the generations that are to come. So I get that. I also want to reinforce that in family court, the judge and attorney general, they reinforce that parents will act as the responsible parties to ensure that the children will be able to have access to visitation with both parties. It is important and imperative to note that children who do not grow up with guidance from one provider or one caretaker or the other tend to statistically grow up to either get involved in substance, not be able to form trusting relationships with others, repeat patterns that they were able to see in the dynamics of their own home, get involved in relationships where there is abuse or violence, end up perpetrating abuse or neglect towards their own children in the future. And what's worse, they grow up without a sense of identity. Now, any individual who grows up without a sense of identity is already pre-wired to not live a successful life. So right now I'm talking to those parents that are taking the time to listen to this video. And I want to remind you of just how important your role is right now when your children are small. And I want to encourage you to think of the long-term effects, because if you do things out of sacrifice and do them correctly for the benefit of your child, believe me when I say you will reap the rewards. So unfortunately, many times what I have heard from many of my clients is that mom or dad speaks so ill of the other parent that many times when I'm asking the child questions, they come up with stories that are actually stories that a child would not be able to manufacture on their own. And here is where, unfortunately, many times a child will say it's because my mom or my dad, whoever the non-custodial parent may be, is not safe. They don't treat me well. They don't feed me good food. They don't. And as therapists, we're able to acknowledge that those stories are not stories that the child is creating on their own. Usually these stories are manufactured by a parent. Now, I'm not saying that there are not stories where the other parent might be either neglectful, emotionally abusive, physically abusive, and in many times as well sexually abusive. That is not what I am talking about right now. What I'm talking about right now is the black and white thinking of a child when they see one parent all good and one parent all bad. The child does not typically have the capacity to look at parents in that sense. So here I want to bring in the term parental alienation. But before I get there, I want to share a scripture with you. Psalm 109, 2-7 says, "For wicked and deceitful mouths are opened against me, speaking against me with lying tongues. They encircle me with words of hate and attack me without cause. In return for my love, they accuse me, but I give myself to prayer. So they reward me evil for good and hatred for my love." I want to speak to those non-custodial parents that are trying and doing everything in your part to be a part of your child's life. And what you often get back is rejection on behalf of your child. That is who I would like to speak to at this moment. I want to challenge you and I want to encourage you. Do not give up on your child. I repeat this, do not give up on your child. If I could scream it, I would scream it, because there are so many children who are believing that their father or their mother gave up on them, because in their mind, they honestly and genuinely believe that they had to pick one parent or the other. Once again, here we go back to what is this child receiving and feeding from? And not many times, or in most often of the times, it is not going to be for that child's well-being. So for you, non-custodial parent, continue doing what you're doing. Have lunch at home or have lunch at school with your child. Focus on your child while they're with you. Like I mentioned before, don't ask them questions about what's going on in the other home. If at all possible, set yourself aside and speak, communicate, learn to communicate with that other parent in a way that will edify your child. If possible, learn to find a middle ground where both of you can be focused on the well-being of your child. You see, I have seen so many cases and I have seen so many parents, and their goal ultimately is to see their child happy. Where they lose sight is when they put their pain in the midst of their own goal and they deviate against what that child's happiness looks like. As the psalm that I just read to you states, for that non-custodial parent, a lot of the times they are trying to do good only to be found with evil gossip, evil words. You don't care about your child or whatnot. And that is where that parent will become discouraged, and in the process learn to stay away from the child so that they can avoid the mother. Now, if this is something that is going on in your family system and it is completely out of your control, if you have tried to communicate with the parent, if you have tried to place your child's needs as a priority, and you are finding that no matter what you try, it still does not give you that time with your child, I want to remind you that there is a process where you can file a motion to have a hearing in court if the custodial parent is interfering with visitation of your time. There is a hearing that you can ask for, a hearing to show cause, in which the judge will ask, what is the reason why this child is not visiting their other parent? In most cases, what we see is that the judge or whoever is attending to the legal needs of this child wants to see that both parents are collaboratively working together. And what happens if a mother or father is interfering with visitation, it can cause consequences that will affect him or her in their professional journeys as well. So this is something that is important for non-custodial parents to be aware of. There is a process for you. If parental alienation, meaning that other parent is alienated from the child's life, is actively taking part in your dynamics with your child, there is legal process to help you to have that time with your child. My greatest recommendation to you is do not, and I repeat, do not surrender the time that you have with your child. They may be angry when they go to you because they are coming in with thoughts that are not their own. Allow them and give them the space to decompress and release that anger, because we know that a child who is expressing anger is simply hurting and they do not know how to cope with this. So once again, if your child comes to visit you and they are expressing high levels of anger, ask them, what is hurting you? Don't focus on the anger, focus on the painful emotion. Help them to break that barrier and to see that it is not anger that they're working against. Allow them and be patient with them. Give them the space to retreat and let them know, I will be here. When you are ready, I will be here. And make sure that you're consistent when you say, I'll be here. Allow them to be open. If it is in their heart to develop that bond with you, allow for that bond to take place. I understand you may be upset at mother or father who are custodial parents and who are placing you in a position where you are having to fight double, triple to be able to have that relationship with your child. But understand that your child is simply being influenced and it is beyond their control at this time. I also want to encourage that the seeds that you are planting right now, which are going to be seeds of love, seeds of patience, seeds of forgiveness, those seeds are going to come back to you in a multiple harvest. It might take some time before you actually see that come to pass. But be still in this moment and know that 1, this storm shall pass. 2, God will fulfill the promises for your home. If you have said, as for me and my home, we will serve the Lord, at some point, God will bring that to fruition for you. Focus on your child's emotional health. Understand that if you are experiencing a relationship with an individual who has a lot of narcissistic personalities, in other words, they don't care to place this child as a pawn. They don't care the pain that is inflicted to this child. They don't pay attention to how is this manipulation affecting my child. They don't pay attention to the fact that my child is hurting and I'm not listening to their needs because I have to tend to my own. If you are in a relationship with a narcissistic individual, there is only so much that at this point you can do, because ultimately they are hurt and they are simply bleeding on other people. That is not your responsibility, nor is it for you to take ownership of. Simply do what you can where you are with what you have. And if time is the only thing that you have working in your favor right now, do not surrender it. In the coming video, I will focus a little more on what is this narcissistic personality? Why is it so imperative for that parent to keep ownership and control of the only thing that they have to use against others? And in this case, it is the child. And we will talk about how do we help this child to heal if that opportunity is presented to the child. So I pray that this will bless your life. It is a message from my heart to you. Believe me when I say I get it. Do not give up, do not surrender, and do not ever for 1 second think that your child does not love you. Understand that it is because your child loves you that he or she is trying to protect you the only way that he or she knows how. If you like this, give it a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe, ring the bell so that way you can receive notification of the next video. Share it with somebody. Believe me, there's so many people that are fighting this battle in silence. So share it with somebody that you believe it will be a blessing to. I remind you, trauma is real and so is healing. And I look forward to seeing you in 1 week for another one-on-one.